I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Joining me now is President of Eurasia Group, Ian Bremmer. Ian, thanks so much for joining me.
Absolutely. Good to be with you.
For the past month, Columbia University has garnered international attention over a pro-Palestinian encampment on the campus. You gave the commencement speech at Columbia University's School of International and Public Affairs. So before we dive into the conversation, talk about that address. Can you talk about what the mood was like on campus?
Sure. This has been an incredibly tense couple of months. Columbia has been driving headlines across the country and even to some degree around the world. You had the police brought in twice. There were a lot of students suspended. There were students arrested, zip ties. There was, Hamilton Hall was occupied. And there was not a lot of violence, but there was certainly property damage, the sort of thing you never like to see in the university. And there's no question that this distraction, right, which was not in any way the opinion of the average Columbia student. If you were to watch the headlines, you might have thought that the average Columbia student supported Hamas, which is insane. But it was certainly true that there was an overwhelming amount of support for the Palestinians and concern about the Israeli war supported by the United States causing an awful lot of civilian damage. And that position, especially in the way it was articulated with a lot of Jewish students on the ground in Columbia, created a lot of ill will, a lot of tension, and did not reflect a learning environment. A lot of yelling, not a lot of listening on the ground in Columbia. So, it was pretty clear. When they asked me to give the speech, I was delighted. It was before any of this happened. And it was very clear to me coming into Columbia on Monday night that this was going to be a tense environment, that the feelings were running hot on campus.
Running hot, to say the least. And it's interesting, you said yes before this conflict on campus really, played out. Did your speech at all change from when you first got the ask to when it played out?
Oh, absolutely. First of all, I was going to be humorous. I was going to be entertaining.
You noted that. You said you're a funny person in your speech, but there were some funny parts, but I wouldn't categorize it as comedic.
Yeah, there were one or two little bits, sort of nods in a sense to the absurdity. But no, these were students that did not need to be entertained. These were students that needed to be challenged. They needed to be understood, they needed to be listened to, and they also needed to be, challenged. And I thought that I had an obligation to address the Middle East conflict, to address the demonstrations, to address the other conflicts around the world for the School of International and Public Affairs. It's not as if this was the only thing going on. And then also to talk about what's happening to our democracy, to our institutions, and the obligations, the opportunities, but the obligations, the responsibilities that these former students, young adults, are going to have now as they go back around the world and have jobs that should help make a difference in our society. So yeah, my speech changed an awful lot over the course of the last few weeks. And I'll be very clear. This speech could have gone very badly. Not either for me or from anybody else that delivered it. It was very clear that this was not like an easy environment to go and speak in.